Imagine signing an 84-month loan for this ultra-luxury electric car.
Right.
You know, it's got those massive coach doors, all the tech, and then you find out the bank processing your payment is running on computer code older than you are.
It is wild to think about.
It's mind-blowing. Welcome to Auto News Talk, where we look at how the automotive industry is completely rewriting its own rule book right beneath our feet.
Yeah, and it's not just the physical cars we drive.
Exactly. I mean, we are fundamentally redesigning the factories that build them. We're changing the money we use to buy them, and the completely invisible computer code that makes the sale possible in the first place.
It really is a total systemic overhaul. And for you listening to understand what's actually happening out there, you have to look at the entire landscape at once.
Yeah, like a giant puzzle.
Exactly, almost like mapping out a connected ecosystem. So we're going to walk you through the complete journey of a modern vehicle purchase. We will look at the futuristic metal hitting the road, the very real human cost on the factory floor, the shifting reality of car affordability, and the hidden digital plumbing running the dealerships.
That is the perfect way to frame it. So let's start with the physical vehicles, because, I mean, that is the part of the ecosystem you actually see on the highway.
Yeah, the fun part.
Exactly. Automakers are pushing the absolute limits of design. One of the sources, an article titled Genesis Unveils GV90 Flagship Electric SUV, really shows this.
Oh, absolutely.
You can see how manufacturers are completely rethinking vehicle architecture to create these unprecedented luxury experiences.
The ambition is just staggering, and that reporting on the Genesis GV90, it really captures the sheer scale of this physical transformation.
Right, because they aren't just taking a traditional gas car and stuffing heavy battery packs under the floorboards, are they?
No, not at all. The coverage of the GV90 highlights that they are using a dedicated platform. It's called the EMP architecture.
And from an engineering standpoint, that dedicated architecture changes everything.
It really does.
I mean, the piece mentions it allows them to pack in dual motors, producing a massive 657 horsepower.
Which is huge.
Yeah, and 590 pound-feet of torque. Plus, they are still hitting an estimated range of 310 miles.
Right. But you know what really caught my eye in the breakdown of this vehicle?
What's that?
The interior interface. They have completely eliminated the traditional instrument cluster.
Wow, really? So just nothing behind the steering wheel?
Basically. It forces a total redesign of how a driver interacts with the car. The reporting points out that Genesis relies entirely on a head-up display.
Okay.
And that is combined with a massive 23.6-inch moving OLED screen.
A moving screen? That's crazy.
Yeah, running on their Plios Connect software. But the most radical structural change, and I mean, this is where the physics of the car fundamentally alters, is the door design.
Oh, yes. I was reading this part. The source highlights these, they call them Neal and Archgate coach doors. They actually slide outward before rotating open. And because they designed the entry this way, they completely remove the B-pillar.
Which is a huge deal.
Yeah. For anyone listening who isn't deeply obsessed with car anatomy, the B-pillar is that vertical steel support column right in the middle of the car, you know, between the front and rear doors.
Right, it holds the roof up.
Exactly, and it provides crucial side impact protection. So removing that central support is an engineering nightmare.
Totally. To compensate for losing that load-bearing column, the Genesis piece notes that the body structure has to be heavily reinforced.
Like how heavily?
Well, they use a frame that is 50% thicker than what you would find on conventional vehicles.
50%. It's like removing a load-bearing wall in a two-story house to create an open-concept kitchen.
Yes, great analogy.
You can't just take the wall out.
Yeah.
You suddenly have to reinforce the entire foundation and the roof joists so the house doesn't just collapse on itself.
Exactly. It proves that electric vehicle design is moving way beyond just swapping out engines.
But, you know, the blind spot in all of this coverage is the reality of buying one.
Oh, for sure.
There's absolutely no mention of exact pricing or a precise launch timeline in the article. It's all vision, no invoice.
Right. What the source doesn't answer is when you can actually get it, which is incredibly common with these massive architectural unveilings.
Yeah, they love to tease us.
They really do. But, you know, there is a dark side to all this innovation.
How so?
Well, while automakers are pouring billions of dollars into building these pristine, futuristic platforms, the transition is extremely messy for the older factories.
Ah, right. The ones left behind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the workers tied to them are in total limbo.
The contrast is genuinely staggering. Which brings us to the human cost of this transition.
Yeah.
When you look at the severe friction happening between automakers and unions over these idled legacy plants, the stakes become very clear.
Absolutely.
Another source we're looking at, titled Stellantis Brampton Plant Uncertainty Raises Stakes for Unifor Contract Talks, really shows how brutal this transition actually is.
The situation up in Ontario perfectly illustrates the collateral damage of moving to an EV future.
Yeah.
According to the reporting, Unifor and Stellantis are clashing heavily over that Brampton plant. It has sat idle for a prolonged, massive stretch of time.
Just sitting there empty.
Just empty. Stellantis actually shifted their planned Jeep Compass production away from that Canadian plant.
Wow. Where did they move it?
They moved it to Illinois, and they specifically cited U.S. tariffs as the economic pressure point.
Man, and the reaction from the labor side is visceral in this piece. The source actually quotes Unifor's president, calling the potential sale of the plant a gut punch to the 3,000 affected workers.
3,000 jobs. That's huge.
It's massive. Those workers had fully expected that huge facility to be retooled for electric vehicle production, and instead, they are just left out in the cold.
And to take the labor dynamics a step further, the reporting includes a really brilliant strategic detail from labor experts regarding negotiation leverage.
Oh, I found this part fascinating.
Right. Unifor might actually have to use the active Windsor plant to threaten a strike.
Because, I mean, if you think about it, launching a strike at the Brampton plant, which is already completely idled and producing nothing, would have absolutely zero impact on the automaker's bottom line.
Zero. You can't stop production if there is no production.
Exactly. But that makes me question the broader corporate strategy here.
What do you mean?
Well, is this plant closure threat just a classic heavy-handed negotiation tactic ahead of contract deadlines? Or is Stellantis making a genuine exit from the facility?
That's the big question.
Because the glaring limitation of this source is the aftermarket for a building like this.
Right.
What this doesn't answer is who outside of the auto industry would actually want to buy a sprawling, hyper-specialized manufacturing facility. You can't just magically turn an old car plant into an Amazon warehouse without spending a fortune.
That is a massive open question. But consider the economics of what we've just discussed so far. Building those futuristic EV platforms with 50% thicker frames, while simultaneously battling unions over retooling millions of square feet of legacy factory space, well, it costs an astronomical amount of capital.
It has to.
And automakers are rigidly protecting their margins by passing that financial burden directly down the line to the buyer.
Which puts the consumer right in a financial vice grip.
Exactly.
If you were shopping for a car, you are feeling this squeeze firsthand. We are seeing a fundamental shift in car affordability. Specifically, our third source zooms in on the practical side, the death of the subsidized lease.
The article, Shrinking Loose Incentives Reshape New Vehicle Affordability, outlines a profound change in how Americans finance their vehicles.
Literally is.
The analysis explains that lower inventory levels across the industry essentially taught automakers a very profitable lesson.
Which is?
They can hold the line on discounts. They realize they just don't need to heavily subsidize leases to move metal anymore. Yeah, the era of easy, heavily subsidized lease deals, where the manufacturer just eats some of the cost to get you into a new car every 3 years, that is fading rapidly.
And the numbers in the report are wild.
They really are.
They point out a specific quarter where leasing accounted for just 18.4% of new vehicle transactions.
18.4.
Yeah. That is a massive drop from the roughly 30% we routinely saw before the massive supply chain disruptions of the last few years.
Right. It used to be almost a third of all sales.
Exactly. According to the source, the best deals are now heavily restricted. You can basically only find them on high inventory cars, specific electric vehicles they are desperate to move, or completely unpopular trims.
And we really have to unpack the ripple effect of that drop because it changes consumer behavior in, well, fairly dangerous ways.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Because a traditional lease is becoming less viable for the average buyer's monthly budget, people are being pushed into incredibly risky traditional loans just to keep their payments artificially low.
Right, they just stretch the timeline out.
Exactly. The source specifically highlights a surge in ultra-long financing. We are talking about 72 or 84-month loan cycles.
Okay, let's break down the math on this for the listener, because an 84-month loan sounds like a decent way to afford a luxury car, until you look under the hood of the amortization schedule.
It gets ugly fast.
Very ugly. If you take out a 7-year loan on a high-end vehicle just to make the monthly payment work, what happens when you decide you want to trade it in after 3 or 4 years?
That is the trap. The financial reporting warns heavily about this specific scenario. They call it the negative equity trap.
Yes, the dreaded negative equity.
Cars depreciate rapidly in their first few years, right?
Yeah.
But on an 84-month loan, you are barely paying down the principal in that same window.
Because it's mostly interest at the beginning.
Exactly. So if you try to trade that vehicle in early, you will likely owe significantly more on the loan than the physical car is actually worth.
So, just as an example, if you owe $40,000, but the dealer only offers you $30,000 for the trade-in, you have $10,000 of negative equity.
Right.
And rolling that unpaid $10,000 into your next car loan just compounds the debt into a terrifying financial spiral.
It's a disaster for the buyer.
But, what the financial reporting doesn't address, the limitation here, is the long-term survival of the dealerships themselves.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah, if an entire generation of buyers ends up severely underwater on their loans, they literally cannot afford to come back and buy another car.
And that threat to the business model is exactly why dealerships are being forced to radically modernize their own operations.
Right.
To survive this financial squeeze, they're having to overhaul the hidden digital plumbing that processes those risky loans and completely rethink the customer-facing technology on the showroom floor.
The hidden plumbing part is honestly shocking to me.
Oh, it's terrifying.
When you dive into the data from our fourth source, legacy lending systems put dealers under growing pressure, it becomes clear that the auto lending sector is sitting on a ticking time bomb of aging technology.
It really is.
It is draining vast amounts of capital and resources just to keep the lights on.
It is a critical vulnerability for the entire industry. A Carlton survey cited in the reporting shows that 87% of auto dealers and lenders are currently involved in some form of platform migration.
87%, that's almost everybody.
Yeah, and the reason why is fascinating. Many of them are relying on ancient coding languages.
How ancient?
We are talking about COBOL, or RPG, running on legacy IBM AS400 systems.
COBOL. I had to pause on that because it's mind-blowing.
It's from a different era.
It is. That coding language is decades old. It's older than most of the people walking into the dealership to buy the cars. We are talking about massive, monolithic mainframe architecture from an entirely different era of computing.
And the people who actually know how to maintain that code are literally aging out of the workforce.
Oh man, yeah, they're retiring.
Exactly. The survey reveals a staggering detail about the cost of this technical debt. 1/3 of the respondents said they dedicate 80 to 100% of their platform resources purely to maintenance.
100% just on maintenance.
Yep. All of that money and brainpower goes entirely toward keeping the old systems compliant and functioning, with literally zero room left for innovation.
It's like trying to run a modern streaming service on a VCR.
That is exactly what it's like.
It might technically play the tape, but you can't update it, you can't connect it to your smart home, and if a gear breaks, well, good luck finding someone who knows how to fix a VCR.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. To escape this, the article notes that APIs, application programming interfaces, and microservices are the new priority for lenders.
Right, moving away from the monolith.
Exactly. Unlike a monolithic system where changing one line of code might crash the whole program, microservices allow firms to update individual parts of a platform separately.
Like Lego blocks.
Yes. This agility is vital to maintain regulatory compliance without breaking the entire tightly connected ecosystem. Because if this legacy lending tech fails or falls out of compliance, the entire car buying ecosystem grinds to an absolute halt.
Yeah, you literally couldn't buy a car.
Yeah.
But the one piece of the puzzle entirely missing from this report, though, is the actual financial cost of replacing these massive monolithic mainframes.
True.
Ripping out the core financial engine of a dealership network has to be astronomically expensive.
Oh, it has to be millions.
But they have no choice.
Yeah.
Right. Because if they don't migrate to microservices, they can't integrate with the other massive technological shift happening on the showroom floor.
Which is artificial intelligence.
Exactly. Our fifth source, how AI-connected systems could redefine daily dealership operations, really digs into this.
Bringing AI into the dealership is definitely the next frontier. And the reporting on AI-connected systems makes a crucial distinction here.
Which is?
We aren't just talking about a gimmicky chatbot on a website that gives you canned answers.
Right, we've all dealt with those.
Yeah, they're awful. But the central insight of this source is that AI is shifting from being a standalone tool into a connected operational layer, one that manages entire fragmented workflows.
So right now, a salesperson might have to manually type your driver's license and your loan info into like 3 different completely disconnected software programs.
Exactly. It's tedious.
The vision here is that the AI just handles the flow of data across the sales desk, the repair workshop, and the customer contact system seamlessly.
It totally eliminates the administrative friction. The piece outlines how this AI layer will handle routine, high-volume tasks.
Like what kind of tasks?
Things like after-hours questions about inventory or basic service scheduling inquiries. By integrating the data, it shifts the dealership's focus from managing disconnected software to managing actual business outcomes.
There's a really interesting perspective in that AI article from Simon Verona.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
He argues that AI's greatest benefit is taking on that resource-heavy administrative work, specifically so human employees have the time and bandwidth for situations requiring, and I quote, judgment, reassurance, or problem solving.
Which is a beautiful concept because it represents a total reinvention of dealership staffing and customer service.
Tabor.
Right.
Yeah.
In theory, customers get lightning-fast answers for simple things from the AI and vastly better, more attentive human support for complex things like negotiating a trade-in or understanding a complicated warranty.
Okay, I have to push back on this utopian vision of the dealership of the future, though.
Fair enough.
Knowing how aggressive profit margins are in retail automotive, isn't there a massive risk that dealers will just use this AI integration to cut their sales and administrative staff to save money?
Oh, absolutely.
Rather than actually freeing them up to have better conversations with buyers, they just fire them.
That is the eternal friction with any form of automation. Does it augment the worker or replace them? And to validate your skepticism, the reporting actually leaves us hanging on a massive regulatory blind spot.
Well, that doesn't answer.
There is no clear answer on how dealerships will handle the incredibly complex data protection challenges of letting an AI operational layer touch all of their deeply sensitive financial systems.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You are feeding an AI a customer's credit score, their income, their home address. If that system hallucinates or worse, gets breached, the liability is catastrophic.
Is a massive vulnerability. But, when you step back and look at all of these sources together, the futuristic cars, the striking workers, the risky loans, and the aging computer systems, it paints a pretty vivid picture.
It really does.
It's an industry that is simultaneously sprinting into the future and dragging a massive anchor of legacy baggage behind it.
It really is a fascinating collision of forces. When you analyze the entire landscape we just covered, 3 distinct themes clearly emerge from the sources.
Let's break those down.
First, we are witnessing an era of intense structural modernization.
Right. And that modernization is happening in 2 completely different realms.
Exactly.
We see it physically in the radically altered B-pillarless architecture of the Genesis EV from that first source. And we see it digitally in the desperate push to replace COBOL with microservices and AI inside the dealerships, as the tech articles laid out.
Spot on. Now, the second theme is the shifting financial burdens. The cost of all this innovation is immense, and it's basically being passed around like a hot potato.
Yeah, no one wants to hold it.
Exactly. The financial piece shows automakers are pulling back on lease subsidies, which pushes the financial risk onto consumers via those dangerous 84-month loans.
Right.
Meanwhile, the legacy lending source shows that dealerships and lenders are bleeding capital just trying to maintain their old systems.
And that leads right into the third theme, which is the human element.
Yes, the people.
The people are the ones absorbing the shock of this transition. It is the thread connecting the 3,000 factory workers caught in the Unifor and Stellantis dispute directly to the dealership staff, trying to figure out if the new AI system is going to help them sell cars or eventually just take their jobs.
But connecting these themes also reveals some incredible contradictions in the industry right now. Think about the technological disparity we just uncovered between the sources.
It is glaring. You have this ultra-futuristic technology going into the vehicles themselves, like the Genesis with its coach doors, moving displays, and massive OLED screens.
It's a spaceship.
It is. But the actual loan you use to buy that spaceship is being processed by decaying computer code from the 1980s, according to the legacy lending source.
The car is in the 21st century, but the bank is stuck in the 20th.
The contrast is just striking.
And another profound tension surfaces when you look at the economics of the manufacturing floor versus the boardroom.
What do you mean?
Well, you have automakers rigidly protecting their profit margins by withholding lease subsidies and refusing to discount vehicles, as the affordability data clearly shows.
Right, they're protecting their bottom line.
Yet, at the exact same time, the source on the Stellantis dispute shows that unionized auto workers face severe instability, factory closures, and stalled production.
Yeah, shifting production across borders.
Exactly. The corporate wealth isn't insulating the workforce from the chaos of the EV transition.
So, with all of this tectonic shifting happening at once, what does this actually mean for you, the listener?
Right. What's the takeaway?
Whether you are a car buyer trying to navigate the dealer lot or someone working inside the auto industry, there's one practical takeaway that applies across the board. You have to avoid getting logged into rigid paths.
Flexibility is absolutely your greatest asset in an industry that is rewriting its own rules daily.
Completely agree.
If you are a consumer, you have to remain financially flexible to avoid getting trapped in an extended 84-month loan cycle just to chase a luxury badge.
Avoid the negative equity trap.
Yes. And if you are a dealer or a lender, you have to embrace flexible technology like API microservices so you don't get anchored to a sinking legacy platform that drains all your resources.
Adaptability is the only way to survive a transition this massive.
It really is.
The auto industry isn't just changing what we drive, it's changing how we finance our lives, who builds our machines, and the invisible code that makes it all happen. You are listening to Auto News Talk, and we want to leave you with a challenge.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on how these digital and physical transitions collide the next time you step into your local showroom.
Exactly. When you look at that pristine, hyper-modern electric vehicle sitting under the showroom lights, ask yourself what legacy systems, both human and digital, had to be torn down to the foundation just to put it there.